Hello, welcome to this video. So this is Unzadani. So in this tutorial video we're going to solving the past paper for 2023-2024 academic year, Biology 1400. So this was 2023-2024. So the first question says, which of the following statements about p orbitals is incorrect? So the first one says they are found in all principal energy levels. Then 2, they are not found in the first principal energy level, so this is true. Then 3, there are 3 types of p orbitals, which is true. So we have px, py, and pz. These are the orbitals, and the 2 p orbitals are found starting from the n is equal to 2 and above. That's where you find the p orbitals. So they contain a maximum number of 6 electrons. Since there are 3, so in each you have 2 electrons. Each p orbital holds a maximum of 2 electrons. So 1 is the answer. This is not true. Then number 2, the electronic configuration of an atom with atomic number 8 is, so we have 1s, we put 2 electrons, then 2s, we put 2, then we have 2p, we put the remaining 4. So the answer is 5. Then 3, what is the electronic configuration of a sodium ion given that the atomic number is 11? So this is in neutral sodium, so atomic number is 11. So for it to become positive, so that means it lost an electron, so meaning you have 10 electrons. So 1s you are going to put 2 electrons, then 2s you are going to put 2 as well, then 2p you are going to put how many? 4 remaining. So you have 2, 2, 4, then plus this, this one, it has to be 6 since there are 10 in total. So here we have 6. So the answer here is 4. So let's go to question 4. So question 4 says, when biomolecules lose electrons, the reaction is called, so loss of electrons is called reduction. No, it's called oxidation. So loss of electrons is called oxidation. Like in the previous question, we had this one. We had the sodium. So when sodium loses an electron, so that means we are going to have plus. So increase in the charge is what we call oxidation. Hence, loss of electrons is called oxidation. Choose the correct statement. Carbon dioxide has 2 covalent double bonds. So the structure of carbon dioxide is like this. Yeah, so this is true. We have 2 covalent double bonds. In the formation of carbon dioxide, electrons are donated by carbon to oxygen. This is not true. They share electrons. Water has 2 non-covalent single bonds. So let's draw the structure of water. We have oxygen here, then hydrogen. Water has 2 non-covalent single bonds. So these are covalent bonds. Then the last one, we have 4. In the formation of water, electrons are donated by hydrogen to oxygen. This is not true. None of the above statement is correct. So the correct statement here we have, so 1 is the correct statement. What about question 6? The reactivity of an atom arises from, so this one arises from the unpaired number of electrons that exist in the outermost shell. For instance, here we have halogens. Those have all the paired electrons in the outermost shell, so they are non-reactive. So the answer should be unpaired electrons. The existence of unpaired electrons in the valence shell. So the answer here is 2. So let's go to question 7. An ionic bond is formed between two anions. So this is not true. Between two cations, this is not true. Number 3, between an ion and a cation, which is true. That's how an ionic bond is formed, between a positively charged atom and a negatively charged atom, which are called anion negatively charged and cation positively charged. So number 8, the weakest and most temporal interactions are, so covalent bonds are stronger than all the bonds. So covalent bonds are the strongest. So we have 1 and 2 here. They are the strongest. So we leave out 1 and 2. So let's go to 3. So we have hydrogen bonds. Hydrogen bonds are weaker than ionic and covalent. So we have ionic. So the correct answer is hydrophobic forces. They are the weakest, which also fall under van der Waals forces. So 9. Which of the following statements is correct? Water is formed by ionic bonds between hydrogen and oxygen atoms. So this is not true. Water as a liquid is held together by hydrogen bonds. So this is true here. Hydrogen is more electronegative than oxygen. This is false. Water is an organic molecule. Water is a cation. So the correct statement here, water is held together by hydrogen bonds. Water molecules like this. Oxygen, hydrogen, hydrogen. So it has to be attached to another water molecule, another water molecule. So here another water molecule, water molecule. So this is H2O, this is H2O, this is H2O, this is H2O. So attached by hydrogen bonds. So this statement here is correct. So question 10. The meniscus of water is curved upwards because, so here we have forces that are involved. We have cohesive forces, which are the forces that hold like molecules, like water molecules together. So then we also have adhesive forces, which allows allow water molecules to adhere to the walls of the container. So when you have greater adhesive forces, so that means we're going to have the meniscus curving upward. But if you had cohesive forces greater than adhesive, you're going to have a meniscus curving downward. So the correct answer here is cohesive forces between one are greater. So we have greater cohesive force between water molecules. Between water molecules are greater than adhesive forces between water molecules. Which of the following factors is responsible for a water molecule being dipolar? So the similarity in electron affinity of hydrogen and oxygen, no. The linear structure of water molecule, no. Water molecule is bent in shape. Difference in the electronic affinity of hydrogen and oxygen. So oxygen has higher affinity than hydrogen. So this is the correct answer. So let's go to the next one. Which of the following statements is not true about properties of water? The, the pH of pure water is neutral. So this is true. This is true. A lot of energy is required to increase water temperature by 1 degree Celsius. This is true according to high specific heat capacity. Water sticks to other substances because of its polarity. Yeah, this is true. Little energy is required to transform water from liquid to gas. So water has got high heat of vaporization. So this statement is false, which is the answer. So 4. So let's go 13. The general empirical formula for carbohydrates is, so the general empirical formula is, since carbohydrates are hydrates of carbon, so we have N here. So we have this answer here. What about the second one? So when you distribute N, you have Cn H2N H2N and O N, which is this one. So both 1 and 2 are correct, which is answer 5. Which of the following carbohydrates do or does not abide by the empirical formula? So here the carbohydrates that do not abide by the empirical formula, it's deoxyribose, since it lacks one oxygen in the hydroxyl group of carbon 2. So this is deoxyribose. So the answer here is deoxyribose, which is found in DNA. Which of the following carbohydrates has the furanose ring form? So furanose ring form, so that means it's those that have 5. So it has to be like this, like this. So this is what we call furanose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if it has 6 sides, we call it pyranose ring. So galactose, this one forms a pyranose 5. So dihydroxyacetone and glyceraldehyde, these they have 3 carbons, so they can't form furanose ring. So we are remaining with glucose. So glucose also is just like galactose, since they are isomers. So glucose also forms a pyranose. So we are remaining with ribose is the correct answer. So let's go to 16. 16. Which of the following correctly describes an asymmetric carbon? So an asymmetric carbon is just a carbon that is attached to 4 different groups. So we have R1, R2, R3, R4. So you see that it does not contribute to stereoisomerism. It has 2 similar groups attached to it, which is false. It has 4 similar groups attached to it, false. It has 4 different groups attached to it. Yeah. So the asymmetric carbon is what contributes to isomerism. So that's why you find, for example, on proteins, glycine does not have isomers like D and L, since it doesn't have asymmetric carbon. The carbon is not attached to 4 different groups. So 17, lipids are the same as fat acids. This is not true. Esters of fat acids and alcohols. Yeah, this is true. Esters of fats and oils. No, this is not true, since fats and oils are just some types of fats. So polymers of fat acid and glycer. So this is false, since lipids are not polymers, primarily polymers of phospholipids. So this is not true. So the only correct answer that we remain with, we have 2 is the correct answer. So 18, which of the following fat acid is monosaturated? So here we need to understand that a saturated fat acid has got a maximum of 36 hydrogen. So the double bond, you reduce the hydrogen atoms by 2 hydrogens. So when you have one double bond, which is mono unsaturated, so that means you are going to have H34. But when you have two double bonds, which is di monosaturated, you are going to have H32. Just like that, it goes on. So let's see the answer now that corresponds to this one monosaturated, this one here, that 4 hydrogens. So we have number 2 is the correct answer. So 19, which of the following lipids has a charged component? So the only lipid that has got a charged component is a phospholipid. Triglyceride, wax, cholesterol, these are not charged. So 20, which of the following statements explains why lipids are partially insoluble in water? So lipids have a head which is hydrophilic and the tail which is hydrophobic. So that's why they are partially insoluble in water. So they are dipolar, no. They are neutral, no. They contain a hydrophilic portion. They contain a hydrocarbon chain. They contain a hydrocarbon chain. They contain a hydrophilic portion. They contain a hydrophilic portion. Hydrophilic portion is the one that allows to be soluble in water. So it can be the answer. They are neutral. They are dipolar. This is not true. So 3 and 4, they are true. A hydrocarbon is hydrophobic and the head is hydrophilic. So 3 and 4 are the correct answers in this case. So 21, identify the false statement. Triglycerides are less oxidized than carbohydrates. Yeah, so this means that triglycerides do not have as many oxygen atoms compared to carbohydrates, which is true. Carbohydrates release less water as byproduct of oxidation than fats. So carbohydrates are already oxidized, then fats can be oxidized to release more. Cholesterol is one of the raw materials for construction of cell membranes, which is true. Triglycerides are poor reducing agents. Yeah, this is true. They don't easily lose hydrogen atoms. Triglycerides have ester bonds in their molecules, which is true. So the answer here, which is false, is number 2. Then question 22. Two amino acids of the standard 20 contain sulfur atoms there. So the amino acid that contains sulfur is cysteine and methionine. Cysteine and methionine. Which one now? So we have 3. Cysteine and methionine. So 23. In a highly basic solution, pH 13, the dominant form of glycine is. So let's draw the structure of glycine so that I explain properly. We have glycine is like this, 2 hydrogens, NH2, COOH. So at neutral pH, this one exists as a zwitter ion at neutral pH. So that means it is going to be like this. So here it will have a negative charge and here a positive charge here at neutral pH. So positive and plus negative is equal to 0 at neutral pH, which is pH 7 is equal to this. But for acidic pH, that means this one will gain, so it will be positively charged. It will be like this, H plus 3. for acidic, but for basic we're going to have this one being deprotonated. So which one is the correct answer here? So we have number 3 as the correct answer. So 24, choose the incorrect statement. Only L amino acids are found in biological systems. So that is true. Glycine is not optically active. Yeah, so this is true as well. Amino acids are soluble in water. All amino acids contain 2 reactive groups. Yeah, this is true. Then 5, acidic amino acids have an other group which is negatively charged. Acidic amino acids have an other group which is negatively charged. This is not true. Acidic amino acids have 2 carboxyl groups. They only get charged when they are in different conditions of pH. So the incorrect statement is this one here. So 25. So 25. The secondary structure of proteins is stabilized by. So the secondary structure is stabilized by hydrogen bonds. Since secondary structure has to do with alpha helix and beta plated sheet, so we only have hydrogen bonds. So 26, the tertiary structure of proteins is maintained by tertiary structure. So we have peptide bond, hydrogen bond, disulfide bond, ionic. So we have ionic, disulfide, dihydrogen. All these are found in the tertiary structure. So the only answer that we can remain with is all of the above. Like peptide, they maintain the structure, but they don't stabilize the structure of proteins in the tertiary structure. Which statement is true about the following reaction? If the concentration of substrate is high and the concentration of product is low, then the enzyme activity is high. So when you increase the concentration of the substrate, that means the activity of the enzyme is high. Activity of enzyme is increased. It's true. So when the concentration of product is high, the concentration of substrate is low, then enzyme activity is high. So when the concentration of substrate is low, the enzyme activity won't be high. So this is not true. This reaction is irreversible. So this is not true. Most reactions that are catalyzed by enzymes are reversible. When the concentration of E drops, which is the enzyme, the reaction stops completely. This is not true. The reaction will still proceed. When the concentration of E increases, the concentration of AC increases as well. The concentration of enzyme increases, the concentration of substrate is increased. No, the concentration of enzyme will not affect the concentration of substrate. So the correct answer that we are remaining with is 1. That's the correct answer. So 28, which of the following statements is wrong about enzymes? When an enzyme binds to a substrate, the enzyme substrate complex briefly changes its shape. So this is true. Chemical bonds in a molecule prevent molecular rapid breakdown in a chemical reaction. End products of enzyme catalyzed and non-catalyzed reactions have the same energy. This is not true. If there were no enzymes in cells, chemical reactions would never take place. Chemical reactions would never take place. This is true. An enzyme can be used in many chemical reactions before it wears out. So when an enzyme binds to a substance, this is true. Chemical bonds in a molecule prevent molecular rapid breakdown in a chemical reactions. Chemical bonds, molecular rapid breakdown in a chemical reaction. This is true as well. End products of enzyme catalyzed reaction and non have the same energy. So this is the wrong statement. Number 3. Which of the following statements is wrong about enzyme activity? So enzyme activity is directly dependent on substrate concentration. Yeah, this is true. When you increase the substrate concentration, it increases until it reaches a state where it is saturated. Then enzyme activity is reduced by lowering temperatures. So let's go to the third one. One enzyme can catalyze more than one type of chemical reactions, which is true. Increasing temperature while keeping enzyme concentration constant increases the rate of chemical reaction. What about 5? Substrate concentration increases, enzyme activity also increases to catalyze the chemical reaction. Yeah, so this is true as well. So the answers that we are remaining with it to consider here, we have increasing temperature while keeping enzyme concentration constant increases the rate of chemical reaction. So this is not true because enzymes operate at a max at a pH at a temperature that is optimum, which is what we call optimum temperature. So the fourth statement here, so when you lower the enzyme too much, so that means the enzyme becomes inactive. So this is true here. Yeah, this is true. So the wrong answer here, which is the answer we have, this is 4 is the correct answer. So let's go to the last question. So enzymes are altered permanently in the reactions they catalyze. Then to make the equilibrium of the reaction more favorable, increase the energy of activation. No, this is not true. Slow down the rate of reaction. This is not true. 3 and 4, they are wrong. Do not increase the energy of products. Do not increase the energy of products. So 5 is the correct answer. All these here, they are all wrong. So 5 is the correct answer. So that's where we end with this one, revising this paper for 2024 academic year. Make sure you subscribe to the channel for more past papers that are solved.